My next guest is someone who has spent years in the trenches with the staunchest supporters of the Second Amendment. Jordan Klepper was from The Daily Show, has made appearances at political rallies, NRA conventions, and most recently, the rally outside the arraignment of former President Trump. Jordan Klepper joins me now. Thank you, Jordan, for taking some time this morning as you're preparing to host The Daily Show this week. So we're sitting here today. Thank you for being here. We're sitting here today following updates on yet another mass shooting in Alabama just last night at a birthday party. And these shootings are happening more frequently around the country. You've attended numerous gun shows in your time, including one of the biggest in the country recently. For the staunchest NRA supporters, guns have become a symbol of their cultural identity, it feels like. Explain to us what you think is going on here.
Well, I do think I was just recently, a couple weeks ago, at the world's largest gun show in Tulsa. And what you take in there is sort of this tactical lifestyle that is being sold to the American public. So, of course, you have your hunters and your hobbyists, but when you walk inside, you're being sold this fear, this aggression, this victimization, asking you to take an offensive stance with your weaponry. And then we look at what's happening at the NRA convention, and you see those things echoed. It's no surprise that these NRA moves are being echoed in the MAGA movement. They're speaking to the same crowds. They're filling them with fear, victimization, and this idea that liberty is being taken from you. And that's sort of a deadly cocktail, which allows all of these folks to be afraid. And at the end of that, they sell them guns.
And as you just noted, I mean, you've traveled around the country asking Trump supporters and members of the GOP about their beliefs. I mean, these are amazing if people haven't seen them. What is the one thing people who despise Trump, of which there are many in the country, what should they understand about the people who still support him? Because you've talked to a lot of these people at these rallies.
You know, something I think where things become difficult, people often ask me, can people change, can Trump supporters change their mind? Can you ever win an argument with a Trump supporter?
Yeah.
And I think you can convince somebody to change ideas. You can have discussions over what people want. You can't have discussions over who people are. And what Trump has done is he's made the MAGA hat a symbol of who he is and who they are. And so you put that thing on, you don't believe in those ideas, you believe this represents you. And I was talking with a gun rights advocate, Ryan Bussey, recently, and he equated the MAGA hat with the AR-15. And so we look at this gun culture we're a part of, and you have discussions of how do we lower these casualties, and you bring up something like assault weapons, and what they've trickily done is they've made the AR-15 a new MAGA hat. So you can't debate whether or not that is something a child should have, because now that's become a point of pride and a point of identity, and that to me is something that is really hard to change.
Yeah. Let's take a look at some of your interviews from the day former President Trump was arraigned in New York City, and we'll talk about it on the other side.
I don't believe what you're seeing is justice.
You don't believe in the grand jury process?
I don't believe if this was a civilian, it would.
I mean, he is a civilian. He's a person, but New York address. So he shouldn't go through the grand jury process.
I believe it should be dismissed.
Because
I'm going by a general gut feeling.
The way I see it is, you know, the government is stepping over their bounds and doing what they're doing here, indicting Donald Trump. This stuff happens all the time.
What stuff? Paying off a porn star and then fudging business records?
I mean, come on, it's his own money for one thing.
And out of all the cases up against Donald Trump, this is probably the weakest one.
Probably the weakest one.
Yeah.
So when I watch that and I hear jaw-dropping comments like that, which, by the way, you've done many, many videos that are similar, you seem to think very quickly on your feet. But how do you prepare to kind of dive into those Trump rallies or events where there's going to be a lot of Trump supporters?
Well, there's a zen I have to get into first and foremost to be prepared to get all sorts of new creative ideas. Medication helps. Intoxication also doesn't hurt. We often
do you
talk
anticipate
about
what you're going to ask
treating
them?
this. Yeah, we almost call it debate prep. I go out there with certain assumptions. I read the news sources a lot of the folks at these rallies are ingesting. I check out Newsmax, OAN. I go on the Reddit boards. You understand these arguments. We debate prep it. We talk about these arguments. We talk about follow-up questions we have. We look at for logical fallacies, and then we go out into the world and engage. And more often than not, the people that you talk to haven't had to go beyond that first gut reaction to follow up with that second question. And that's where we find the humor and or the anthropological interest.
Turns out the follow-ups may be what get people sometimes. You've also done a lot of work diving into some of the wildest MAGA conspiracy theories, of which there are many. What has been the wildest thing you've uncovered, or something that's really stuck out to you?
Well, I'm shocked at how often JFK Jr. is invoked as not only somebody who is still alive, but who is now a Republican and potentially in the Oval Office. I think a thing that really scares me, though, is how so many folks in the MAGA movement are unable to let go of the idea that Donald Trump isn't still in power. And not that he won the election. That seems to be commonplace right now. You believe that he won the election. It's more so the number of people who truly believe that he still has power. He's still making decisions. And I think that goes to how much we want to believe these conspiracies are true, to the point that we can't even relinquish the idea that Donald Trump doesn't pull the strings anymore. And that's just sort of, that's the magic trick he's pulled. It's somebody who's so afraid of loss and admitting any kind of defeat that even his supporters can't admit that he doesn't have that power currently.
So you're hosting The Daily Show this upcoming week. I know you've been spending some time out in the field. There's a lot to talk about, I think it's fair to say. What is the topic you're most excited to delve into that we can all expect as viewers?
Well, I want to delve into what's happening right now. I was at this Tulsa gun show, and we're going to look at why America is obsessed with the AR-15. I was with AOC just the other day talking about a violence prevention program in New York City, and I spent some time with Governor Whitmer, the governor of Michigan, my home state, and we talked about the gun control legislation she passed. We talked about how abortion is an issue that she was able to run on, and sort of the future of Michigan politics and national politics. So we're going to take the news of the day. We're going to find some humor in it, but I have a lot of smart, interesting people that we're going to bounce those ideas off of as well.
Looking forward to it. Jordan Klepper, thank you so much for joining me this morning. Be sure to catch Jordan hosting The Daily Show starting tomorrow through Thursday. You can watch it on Comedy Central and Paramount Plus.